I've been telling you from day one of Nomad Capitalist that high-tax Western countries who don't think they need to compete will never run out of new ideas for things to tax. And now comes a proposal from Germany in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic to tax people for working from home. I am Andrew Henderson, and here at Nomad Capitalist, I've spent years traveling all over the world, hiring a team of 30 people, building a network of experts who help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs legally keep more of their own money and go where they're treated best, including avoiding dumb taxes for things like having to work from home in the middle of a pandemic. And so here's the headline from Business Insider. Deutsche Bank researchers call for a 5% privilege tax on people choosing to work from home, with the money going to low-income staff. So now we've gotten to the point in the Western world where we don't even need the government. We don't even need politicians or bureaucrats to come up with new ideas for how to tax you. Now we have banks who've been fined for laundering money for people, for rigging interest rates. They will come up with the ideas for the government, and I'm sure they'll be very warmly embraced. Here's the article. Deutsche Bank said Tuesday that people choosing to work from home rather than in an office should be taxed 5% of their salary, with the money used to support people on low incomes who cannot do their jobs remotely. You got a job that allows you to work remotely. It's your fault. You should be punished. You're already paying 30, 40, 50% of your income in tax in a place like Germany. Pay an extra 5%. The new report from the German bank says that the average person, well, here's their response. The average person would be no worse off if they paid the tax, because by working remotely, they can save money on travel, food, and clothes, because when I'm working from home, I like to work naked. Food, travel, because you can't take your lunch to work, because the government said we're raising money through a gas tax to pay, or a petrol tax, to pay money for the roads, but even if no one's using the roads, we'll tax you another way. I thought taxes were supposed to fund things that people were using, but even if you don't use them, they're going to find a way to get you. Now, what I love about all these reports is you'll be no worse off if you pay the tax. I remember, I think I was 14 years old, and I was having a discussion with some of the people at my school, some of the teachers, about how there was, all the people had yard signs saying, renew our school levy, vote for the school levy, and no new taxes. Your taxes won't go up. And I said, well, what happens if the levy doesn't pass? What if people vote against it? Wouldn't taxes go down? They said, yeah, you'll stop paying this extra 1% sales tax or whatever it was. And I said, well, then your taxes are going up because they're scheduled to go down anyway, therefore staying the same, your taxes are going up. And you can see why I was very popular at 14 years old. But the whole thing is about convincing people how they won't be worse off. And so as long as you get a windfall, the government will be there to take it. Because after all, you're not buying so many clothes. Employers, the article continues, should pay the tax. If they don't provide staff with a permanent desk, it said, so instead of the employee now paying because they chose to work from home, now the employer should pay, you should pay. Otherwise, staff should pay for it out of their salary for every day they work from home. They're literally going to keep like an attendance log, like you were back in school. According to Deutsche's calculations, this tax could raise $49 billion per year in the US, which would be wasted in promptly about 12 hours, 20 billion euros in Germany, and 7 billion pounds in the UK, funding subsidies for low-income earners who cannot work remotely. I also always like these calculations, or these presentations, by the way. If we steal more of people's money, it'll raise a lot of money. Do you know what also raises money? Robbery, going out. I'm sure if you went and found a guy in the street, you could raise some money. Is it the right thing to do? No. Is it legal? No. Is it moral? No. Please don't go and do that. But there are plenty of ways to raise money. Taking money from people because they chose to work at home in the middle of a pandemic, which these governments are very concerned about, you think. Now they're going to use it as an excuse to bring in more money. And I look at this and I say to myself, exactly what I've been telling you for years. Countries like Germany, they are brand names. The United States, Canada, Australia. These countries are so used to a world where you don't have to compete. They are not used to a world where Malaysia and living in Kuala Lumpur feels just as developed as living in most places in Europe. They are not used to a world where new countries to their east in Eastern Europe are coming up with much lower taxes and attracting work, especially the kind of low-income work that they're talking about. Maybe if they want to solve their low-income workers' problems, maybe they can lower taxes, maybe they can become more competitive so those jobs stop going to Serbia, to Ukraine, to Albania. But they don't want to do that. They want to blame you. And so countries like Germany don't want to be competitive. They simply think, you know what, whatever we tax these idiots, they'll pay it. And apparently, in many cases, they're right. How many millions of people live in California, despite the fact that the government is constantly raising taxes on high earners, threatening wealth taxes, and more? But if I'm a business owner, do I want to be in Germany in the middle of a pandemic taking the risk that I have been taking this year, where I just opened an office? I invested more, and actually we're looking to buy an even bigger office now. Do I want to invest a significant chunk of money to buy real estate, to where on one hand I have the government imposing endless restrictions on what I can do, not only under normal conditions, but in the pandemic, in terms of when my workers can come, what I have to do? Okay, fine. But am I going to make that investment knowing that now either they're going to pay an extra 5% and be upset with me, or I'm going to pay the 5% because I chose not to make the investment? It's a no-win situation, which is what happens with places or with people that don't think they need to be competitive. Now, the article continues. The self-employed and low-paid staff should be excluded from the charges, it says. The tax should only apply in countries where the government hasn't advised people to work from home, it said, which seems like pretty much everywhere these days. If the government has told people to work from home, the tax would be unfair. Because if there's one thing that politicians don't want to do when it comes to taxes, it's being unfair. So who's to say they don't just take this idea and run with it, minus all the fair parts? Working from home will be part of the new normal. Well, after the pandemic has passed, we argue that remote workers should pay a tax for the privilege. It's always about the privilege. Jim Reed, research strategist at Deutsche Bank, said in the report, which argued that taxes are fair because those working from home have gained many benefits, such as convenience and flexibility, as well as saving money. This is what I've been telling you from the beginning of Nomad Capitalist. And I think back in 2012, 2013, 2015, people said, this guy's kind of crazy. And now you're finally seeing, which is why we've been so busy this year here. With an election and all the chaos that's been going on, we've been so busy. Because what you're finally seeing is just how uncompetitive they want to be. Any benefit you get should be taxed. You would think if being a citizen of a country was supposed to be a privilege, the way people talk about, Andrew, why did you give up your U.S. citizenship? There were so many privileges. The privilege is anytime you get a benefit, whether it's a financial windfall, whether it's more flexibility, whether it's more convenience, they don't say, oh my goodness, thank goodness that the citizens of our country are enjoying some convenience at a tough time when so many people are suffering the way we constantly talk about. No, because anyone who's not suffering, they don't like you anymore. You've seen this in the Western world and we've talked about it. You're never paying your fair share. They won't tell you what a fair share is, but whatever it is, rich people, you're not paying it. And now, oh, you get some convenience? How dare you have a convenient life? You should pay us for the privilege of this thing that we've done nothing to contribute to, other than making mandates and demands. The bank says this means that remote workers are contributing less to the infrastructure of the economy while still receiving its benefits. How do you receive a benefit? Sitting at home, working from home. You're not driving as much. You're not receiving the benefits. But this is the narrative. You are a taker. You owe us. We've built roads, which, you may recall in the United States at least, the interstate highway system, as I recall, was built for the military initially. They didn't build it so that you could get around quickly. They built it for the military. And so, for the first time in history, a big chunk of people have disconnected themselves from face-to-face world, yet are still leading a full economic life. How dare they? This is really what it's all about. How dare you, they say. It's just the latest step. There have been many before this. The millionaire tax in California, the millionaire tax in New Jersey or Maryland, rising tax rates. Sure, some countries in Europe have lowered corporate tax rates, no doubt about it. And not just those in Eastern Europe. There have been some countries in Western Europe that have tried to be more competitive, no doubt about it. But they will get you one way or the other. The countries that we talk about have imposed fewer restrictions, have made it easier to do business, and they're not talking about stupid stuff like this. You want to give an extra $5,000 for every $100,000 of salary? Do you want to make it harder to recruit people for your business? You want more restrictions on how you can run your business? Well, then, if this proposal is adopted, you won't want it to be in Germany. And if this proposal is adopted, you can count on more countries whining how they were relying on you to do all the things they say they don't want you to do. They were relying on you to smoke to pay the bills. They say they want you not to smoke, but then when people stop smoking, they complain, how are we going to raise the money? They say that we fund the roads people are driving on, but even when you don't drive on them, they still want the same taxes. They're going to find a way to make it your fault. And especially if you are successful, if you're the 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur or investor that we talk to, they're never going to give up saying how you need to pay them more money. This is why I have passports from countries that are not part of this chaos. This is why I live in countries and hire in countries and run my business in countries that is not part of this chaos, because this is ridiculous. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.